Hey everyone, welcome back to Bricks at Home 2021. For those of you who are just joining us, we're starting our latest session. Bricks at Home is a live event from Brick Alley and London Atholls. We're seeing some amazing Lego creations, getting stuck into some build activities, and we've got a session on space, classic space and neoclassic space. If you've not checked out the Bricks at Home store yet, go to bricksathome.org/merchandise. There are Bricks at Home minifigures, printed bricks and t-shirts to check out. I'm Graham Hancock. I'm the editor of Blocks magazine. And first up in this session, I'm talking to Kaz Mockett about her Mars mining colony. Hey Kaz, how are you doing?
Hello folks, I'm very well, thank you.
That's a very flashy t-shirt you're wearing.
Yeah, I bought, merchandise. I'm on brand.
So what are you showing us today, Kaz?
Well, I'm showing you my enormous Mars mining colony.
Wow.
Basically, I loved the space sets that were released in 2019, the sub-theme of City. And I think there were 9 different sets in 2019, which is more than the City sub-theme has ever had for a long time, since basically some of the old, classic space releases. There's one for the bingo card, if anybody's got that going. And so basically I was inspired by the sets and I thought, well, I haven't actually seen anybody yet build a diorama using all of the new space sets from that particular sub-theme. And so I went a bit mad and bought multiple copies of several of the sets, most of them on discount, I'm hoping, but 1 or 2 were full price. And then I thought, well, okay, what can I actually do with these in order to make a massive diorama? And now one of the things I do love from the olden days, cue tiny violins, is the monorail system.
Yeah.
Whilst I really loved the mechanism and the sort of the whole system and how it worked, I wasn't actually very keen on any of the 3 official monorail trains, so I decided to build my own for this particular mock. The very first thing I did was basically, after I'd been collecting monorail track for many a month, I did the layout decided roughly how big I was going to do it, which is 7 by 5 base plates, and then the first thing was lay out the monorail track to make sure that everything was going as I hoped it would. And so we've got a mock here of the high-speed passenger shuttle that goes around the base. I'll show you various different areas in a minute, but it was good to see something actually running. And it comes round here.
The satisfying thing in the world is seeing the monorail going around.
Yes, indeed. I'm going to have to turn the volume up a bit because I think the monorail's so loud. There we are. And I won't have everything running at once while I'm trying to talk to you because it will just be too loud. But so that's one circuit of the monorail, and we have various features that it basically takes the passengers around. The whole base is basically a Mars mining colony, New Mars, and this is the first area what we have where everybody's basically doing their mining activities, looking for these lovely crystals and the minerals that are in those wonderful geode pieces that came with the City sets.
The terrain looks fantastic.
Yes, I was really pleased with the way that worked out. I haven't done much terrain in the past, but most of the base is built on a mills type plate with a base plate, a brick, and then a plate. And that meant that for the actual crater part here, I was able to have a little bit more depth by putting the plate directly on top of the base plate. Yeah. And then doing some contouring at the edges. Most of it is the medium nougat colour, but some dark orange made a real difference in terms of looking like they were digging things up and giving it a bit more contrast. So that's the mining crater. And then we have 3 different sizes of launch pad here for the sort of surface skimming craft, inspired by some of the old landing plates that you could get from classic space. Plenty of craters on the surface as well. At the back here, we've got, let me see if I can come around this way. We have the large rocket assembly building, and I built this enormous gantry, extended it a little bit and put it on some rails so that we could have the thing moving such that the minifigures can take the lid off this bit, and then basically put in the roving vehicle that goes in that shuttle bay there.
Oh, wow.
Now this building is built from 2 copies of the assembly building that came with the rocket, and I've got full interiors in that one. So this is where they're doing things with robotics, and then there's the clean room here where they're doing things with satellites. And each of these buildings are basically fully pressurized. The atmosphere outside is not breathable for minifigures, so they all have to be space suited up when they're outdoors. But they have made friends with the locals, and there's plenty of locals around who are helping them out with their work. And the locals, of course, don't need to be in a spacesuit, so that's why they're just wearing their work overalls.
That's fantastic.
Round here we have the control tower, built from some lovely old pieces that I managed to source on Bricklink, with 360-degree view.
Oh, very nice.
And that's the building at the bottom where the workers come in to do the control tower, and they're basically responsible for the sort of low surface air traffic control around the base. And then we move on to the rockets here. I shall come around this way. We have something that might be vaguely familiar there as representing the liquid oxygen fuel tanks. There's a couple of rockets on the pad. One's in the process of being launched. Just some of those Ninjago spinner pieces came in really handy for the flames at the bottom.
Wow. So they are useful.
Yes, indeed. And then, of course, we have a control centre for each of the pads. They've both got different staff inside, but they're more or less identical in terms of the facilities we've got. Now, I decided I was never going to use my mobile phone in here like you could do with your official set. So I fully enclosed that and closed up the bits where there was some dangerous air holes where the atmosphere could leak in, that sort of thing. Just a bit of mocks going on there. And I've also done some extra details on top of this area here, which is not habitation, because there's not really enough room for habitation for everybody here, but it's where they do the analysis of the samples that they brought from the mine. So this is all the sort of lab area. I think the habitation part of this particular base is way off somewhere that we don't actually see. So there we go. Obviously, we need some solar power. And this is the solar array from several of those lunar sets. I think there's something wrong here because we've got a red light, and some workers have come to have a look. And they've got a couple of robot helpers. We've also got the robot charging station down here. With all these robots, they need somewhere to charge when they're not being used. So that's that particular area. Now, of course, training people to go into space, one of the vital things that you need is a centrifuge. So down here, we have a centrifuge, and a couple of the guys maybe not looking as happy as they could be when it starts going. And I can't say as I blame them, to be honest, because, well, it really does go rather quickly. And of course, the dish spins on top as well there. And it stops rather quickly as well. I don't know how many G's they pull when they first stop. Other bits that, yeah, exactly. Other bits that move on the mock are, oh no, that's the wrong one. So the satellite ground stations here, made from several copies of the polybag, where there was an astronaut and a satellite.
Yeah.
And they're all running off one drive shaft.
Oh, genius.
Coming from here. And then finally, let's have this going. We've got the little cargo train that trundles around the base. And this is based on Jason Allman's mechanism for running the trains on the new roller coaster track. So we've got a local there. There's the pilot. And just to give us all a bit of a laugh, I will now run everything at once.
Yeah.
See if it all goes horribly wrong.
This is exciting.
There we go. The mechanism on the centrifuge really needs a bit of attention, so I'm not sure how long it'll keep running, but we'll see.
Wow. Now,
I've made this fully modular. I hope you can still hear me shouting over the noise here.
Yeah, we can hear you nice and clear.
Good. I made it fully modular so that each of the 32 by 32 base plates just clips into its neighbour with a Technic pin, with the idea that I really do want to take this to a show when they resume. And so we're just unclipping a few bits of track. I've made sure the tracks join each other at the edges of the base plates and things like that. But we've got a bit of mechanical movement there when the train passes. So yeah, I've made it such that it's modular, and hopefully it will pack away into a not too big an area. Now we have a bit of jeopardy here, because sometimes if the cargo train is on this straight, it can get bashed by the passenger train, but I think we've just managed to avoid a nasty collision there.
The monorail and the other train going as well really kind of highlights just the multi-level way that you've built it, and the fact that there's things going on at different height. Well,
I'm a bit behind with editing, but I've got 1 or 2 videos on my YouTube channel, Blockhead UK, which shows how I built the trains. And I've also got an on-train ride perspective video there. So I've got my GoPro on the front of each one, which is an amazing thing to see it basically going round the... don't see me moving that with a hand there. You can see the whole thing moving around the base and seeing the details sort of up close and personal, which is really fun. Now, I first did my planning on the floor with the monorail track to get the ideal size. And then I went to, I think it was LDD rather than Studio, to plan out where I wanted the roller coaster track to go.
Yeah.
Because I needed to order a load of that from Lugbulk last year. So I basically started planning it about 12 months ago, deciding exactly what I needed. And then most of the components that I needed to make a start arrived at the end of August. And it's not quite finished, but it's pretty much there now. So it's been about 5-6 months in the build.
Wow.
I think the only thing left I've got to do is do some proper customization to some of these pods inside.
Yeah.
Because they were built originally as an orbital station, which meant that there are beds on the side and things like that. But if I can get some 1 or 2 more custom interiors of those, because I think there's about 3 or 4 copies of that to make this particular section. And I wanted something unique in each pod, which I haven't quite achieved yet, but we're getting there. So
they work really well as ground, areas.
Yeah. I think I might have to stop this train in emergency. Yeah, there we go.
So we've got some questions if you're ready, Cass.
Yeah, let me just turn the most of the noisy stuff off, because I can't hear you terribly well.
Well done, Kaz. That's absolutely stunning.
Oh, peace descends. Oh, and if I could just... Drat. Now it's all gone wrong. No, stop. There we are. It's all falling apart. It was going so well until then.
We got the money shot before it crashed there. We saw everything at once.
Excellent.
Richard says, do you have a separate Lego display in every room of your house?
It's getting that way, Richard. It is getting that way.
Tan asks, which of these space sets is your favourite?
I think the thing that really kind of inspired me to do something more with the whole line was probably the space station here, because I could see it was so modular. All you needed to do was get a couple more of the joining Technic sort of ring piece things, which I got some on Bricks and Pieces or something. And that kind of got me into thinking, oh, we could do something more modular with the whole thing. So I think that would probably have to go down as that. But I've really enjoyed building the custom monorail train. Quite a few of the pieces from that have come from the second copy of this big rocket here.
Yeah.
And in fact, the rocket boosters there, the second copy of that made there's a lift there for the guy going up to his work, made the base for the control tower as well. So each of these pods actually do come open. If I can do it with one hand, maybe I can't. No, I don't think I can do it with one hand. Oh, maybe. Come on, there we are. So there's 4 seats in each of those pods for the astronauts to go in as well.
Oh, excellent. Jennifer asks if you have a favourite area of the layout.
I think the rock work here has come out really nicely. And I knew that I wanted to build something on a landscape that wasn't just grey, because although I love the old classic lunar crater plates, it is very grey when you've got a whole diorama. And so I just love the contrast, particularly the orange here that the designers had already come up with for the sets as an accent colour. I think that really worked very nicely with the darker orange colour within the crater. And one other thing I was going to show you, which I forgot, was down here we've got a self-contained rover which can go and do a little bit more prospecting elsewhere. And it's basically the 3-in-1 creator set that I've changed the colours in so that it now matches the rest of the colour scheme. But otherwise it's, and changed the wheels as well because I've got nice gold wheels. But that's the sort of terrain it can basically cope with when it's going off and doing more prospecting for different mining stuff. I'm pleased.
Oh, sorry, go on. No, go on.
I was pleased I was able to get one rocket actually partially lifting off as well, because both had just sat there stationary. I think was a bit dull, and it shows the way that the whole thing. I've had to extend the spike that it sits on a little bit, but that works really nicely. And closer look there at the flames from the Ninjago set, the Ninjago spinner.
Really well.
Yeah. Have you got some questions?
Elwood Brickmaster asks how many pieces are in the model.
Absolutely no idea. Absolutely no idea. I mean, I could probably do a tot up of what was in the official sets.
Yeah.
But then I think I ordered 280 8x16 plates just to do the top of the terrain. So I would say upwards of 5,000 easily.
Yeah.
At a guess.
Adam asks how many sections does it break into? What is the reconstruct time for shows?
Well, it's about 35 base plates basically. So this section here is 3x2. We've got 5 deep and 7 across. And I took it all apart and dusted it and then put it all back together again in about 3 hours, I guess, over the last 2 days, because it's been sat here for some time, me thinking I need to do the dusting and got the show coming up. So that's what I was doing yesterday. I was finishing off the dusting. So I'm pleased with, the modularity has worked out pretty well so far. And I think taking it to shows, as I say, I take the high level track apart and just basically undo a tile or two at the joins. And then I leave everything as much as I can actually in situ. I'll take the minifigs up because they'll be floating around otherwise. But I'll leave everything else in situ as much as I can. I mean, the buildings, for instance, they're built such that they're really easy to pull off. They're just on some jumpers. So a lot of the plates will plaque pretty flat. And then I'll just have a couple of boxes for the buildings and the larger items that need to be taken separately. So
Well, as you can imagine, there's lots of very impressed comments coming through in the chat. I think
Thank you very much. That's great.
everyone with that one, Kaz. It's really ridiculously epic.
Thank you. And I hadn't seen anybody else do anything with these sets, so that was really the main reason I wanted to have a go at something that involved the new space sets, because we're always complaining that Lego don't do enough space. Well, I am anyway. So I thought it was better to put my money where my mouth is when they finally came up with some space sets for us to show what you can do with them.
Yeah, and you've definitely achieved that. You've definitely proved what can be done with them there.
Thank you.
And also on behalf of everyone, Kaz, thanks for your efforts in organising Bricks at Home 2021.
Thank you very much.
You making this happen.
Rich has done most of the hard work, but I'll take some credit, no way.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kaz.
Thank you very much.
We're going to talk to Ben Smith about the Ark.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hey, Ben, how are you?
Hey, I'm good, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, all good, thank you.
I was just thinking, when we did this like a year ago, didn't we?
Yeah, it was last.
And it was
summer,
like doing Zoom a year ago was like quite a novelty, and now it feels like it's something we do every 10 minutes.
Exactly. So what have you got to show us, Ben?
Sitting over there, and in a moment I'll flip the camera over so you can see it, is this big spaceship I built. I think I built it year before last. And it's kind of just been sat here gathering dust because I've not had anywhere to take it or anyone to show it to. So it's quite nice to do this and, just have a forum to do something with it rather than it gathering dust. And it all came about because I wanted to do stuff that had movement and had motors in it and stuff like that. So I did this. So let me, hold on. You don't want to look at me, do you? You want to look at this.
That would be amazing.
So here it is.
Wow.
This is the Ark, and I'm going to start the motors going. Hold on, let me get the zapper. And it's not working. Why are you not working? So what it does is this.
Oh.
It might be a little creaky because
That is cool.
Let me just shut some of the other lights out. Can you still see it all right, everybody?
Yeah, we can see it really, really nicely.
So yeah, so I think it was Steam. So not the last Steam, the Steam before that.
Yeah.
And I had done a bunch of models that had lights in. And I was quite pleased with that. I sort of thought, well, stuff with lights, that looks really good. And then I thought, well, I should do stuff that moves, because I'd seen that at shows. If people have stuff that moves, people really like it. It looks really good. And I just thought, well, what could you do? What could you do on a spaceship that is going to move? And this idea of doing this kind of centrifuge that spins round just seemed kind of obvious. And then it took about a year to build it, because it turns out to be phenomenally difficult to do. I can see questions popping up on my screen, but I think somebody is collating those so that we'll answer them later.
Yeah, well, you talk us through what you want to talk us through, and then we'll throw them in as they come up. Yeah.
So the first thing, what I was going to say was, I think one of the questions was about how does it stay up? And so the trick with this is that it's got metal inside it. So if you look, let me just get a bit more natural light. Hold on.
Yeah.
So if you look this at the bottom, this is a big piece of metal, and it runs right the way up through the middle. You can see it here.
Yeah.
This is metal. It goes all the way up here, and then it goes all the way across front and back to hold it up. And that's like 16mm steel, which is exactly like 2 studs. So it's very easy to work with because you just have to build something that would hold 2 studs. And it goes right through the hole. And like with something like, honestly, I do not think there was any way to build this or anything remotely like it just from Lego without it just collapsing. At the very least, it would be so fragile. It wouldn't. So, it's so big, this thing. Over here, you can see my shelves where all the other stuff is kept. It doesn't fit on a shelf. So my kids are like running around. I spent most of yesterday mending the engine at the back here because the kids had knocked the engine off. And so it has to survive that. The best bit of it is what I'm going to show you now, however. And again, I'm going to just shut the lights out so you can see. So the whole idea of this is inside this centrifuge, you can see the environments of the world. And these, I didn't build these. These were all built by two guys, by Tim Goddard and another guy, Tom Loftus, who is known as Inthert online. And they very kindly, because this was kind of outside of my experience building these kind of landscapes, they built these little panels which all fit inside the centrifuge. So if you look, you can see there's a desert. What can you see here is the jungle coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit better light.
That's amazing.
Little farm there, some buildings.
So this is why it's called the Ark, right? Because it's
it's called the Ark because it's taking, it's transporting humanity and the environment. Yes, it is, Tan, and I'll show you that in a minute. There's the ocean, a bit more ocean. There's some desert. I did a presentation like this for BrickCon autumn last year, and I was using a laptop, so I wasn't able to film it as well as this. I hope you can all see it at home, because obviously this is what you're seeing now.
We can see this really well.
This is totally under the lighting from the model. So this, what you see is the lights. So there are lights in the middle bit. You can see them going around there that are shining down to provide illumination on these things.
So obviously lots of people motorize their models, but to build something that big that's going to spin, where do you start?
So I'll tell you what, naivety played a huge factor here. I did not think this would be difficult. I know I had zero experience with building Technic kind of mechanisms that moves. I just thought making something go round will be easy. And the first version of this, I can put the camera down, hold on. The first version of this, the wheel was held up by some Technic turntables, and it kind of, I sort of tested this and went, okay, it kind of works. And then it didn't, and it turned out that there was just, because the wheel is probably about 5 or 6 kilos, and it just didn't turn. There was too much friction, and so I had to sort of go and completely redesign the way it works. And I will now show you. So if I just pull this bit off the front, which I can do, and you can see the big bit of metal inside that's holding it up.
Yeah.
And what I'll have to do is again get the lights on. Now you can see in there are these little wheels, and this sort of nougat piece which is round in the middle, and it is sort of, it's got bearings. It kind of drives around on these little wheels, so there's very little friction. But it just took months. And you can also see that the wheel has its own batteries, because obviously there's no way of getting a wire into the wheels. So you can see some distinctly non-Lego electronics in there to make that work.
Yeah.
I'll just pop this back.
And Jennifer asks, did you have any problems getting it to balance without it falling over? Like, even with that metal frame, it must have been a bit of a balancing act.
The thing with the metal is that it is so strong that that isn't really a huge problem.
Yeah.
You could quite happily take off the whole the back end and just have the wheel, and it would still stand up. And I think if I'm just going to put on the computer here, hold on. I've just posted a link to my Flickr and a picture of this thing. And if you browse my Flickr, there are some pictures of the metal and of the some tests I did. So that's not really a problem. The bigger problem was just the engineering of the wheel. So the metal is just in the ship. The wheel is 100% Lego. And it is actually remarkably strong. I mean, before I put all the details on, it was strong enough that you could sort of roll it around like a bicycle tire. Let me just get a different angle. And like I say, it was remarkably strong, and which it has to be, because otherwise it would just fall to bits. But then when I was building it, and it took months and months just to sort of assemble the thing, the problem you would have is that if when you'd only built part of it, gravity would kind of draw that bit to the bottom and you couldn't get it to turn. You had to keep the thing balanced in order for it to go round. You see the big engine on the back there. Can you see it flickering away? You should be able to see there's actually a kind of flicker in that engine.
Oh yeah, just about, I think, yeah.
I think there's about 50 or 60 LEDs in there, again, non-Lego, and each one kind of has a little candle flicker effect. So you get this kind of, and it's very bright. I mean, it's, you've got some nice lens flare there, look at that.
Yeah, it's very cinematic.
You've got this reactor thing here that has these lights, and there's a little circuit board inside that makes this reactor thing light up like this in this sort of circular manner.
Tan asks, what were your main sources of inspiration? It looks like something from The Expanse. That specifically was not something I was looking at the time, but it's quite a sort of hard sci-fi design. It's not Star Wars. It's kind of informed by reality. So there's a centrifuge to provide gravity. Maybe I should explain that. So the idea is that by this wheel turning, there is gravity that would stick you to the inside of the wheel and stop you floating around because you're in space. But it was, as I say, it was just kind of a vaguely serious, non-fantasy kind of a thing. But then, a lot of it was just practical. So we've got these big radiator things, top and bottom, which make a lot of sense so that you can radiate the heat from your reactor. But on a practical note, I had to do that to hide the big metal bar that holds it up to the floor, And Oliver asks, how did you get the power into the rotating ring?
So the power for the lights comes from those batteries that I showed you when I took the front off, and that just powers the LEDs. The rotation, there's motors in here. So this bit has a couple of motors in it. There's two, and as you can see, there's a wire that trails out of it, which goes to some power supplies on the floor. And I've given up on Lego's batteries, so it all runs off power adapters that you plug in. Well, you can't see anything there because of the sunlight. Whoops. You see it in the light a bit better there.
That is just so epic. Do we have any last questions for Ben on this build? If so, please pop them in the chat with 3 question marks. How long was this one in the making for? Between a year and 18 months. It was a while ago now. I think, this was something where I remember coming back from Steam and thinking, I really should do something with motors and sort of starting the kind of noodlings towards it. But then it was an incredibly long time before it was actually sufficiently done that you could put it down and say, right, let's go and do something else. Yeah. LD Brickmasters asked, what lug are you part of?
So I'm in Brickish, and I'm also in Gertlug down here in Bristol.
And as you can imagine, Ben, there's just lots of very complimentary messages coming through. I think you've definitely wowed everyone with the level of this one.
Which parts make up the outside of the circle? Lots of different parts. You can see some of them if I put the camera there. I mean, you've got these big quarter panels, which, are giving you the kind of circle here. And then these arches that kind of cover, there's a lot of work here just to cover up the gaps so that it looks continuous. And all sorts of bits on the rim of it. Oops, sorry.
What parts did you use on the interior of the circle to keep it that solid? You mentioned the fact you could pretty much roll it along.
There's Technic. There's a Technic frame in there, which is all sort of double reinforced so that it doesn't just fall to bits. And I say it actually works surprisingly well, but it's surprisingly solid. And the other thing, so I think there was the first version of this, and I did it, so there were 16 sections around it. And then I realized that would mean you had to have 4 spokes, and I just didn't think 4 spokes looked very sci-fi. I wanted 3 spokes, but that means the sections of the wheel has to be a multiple of 3. So then it became 18 sections, and it involved a whole different technique to get the angles that would give you 18 sections.
Well, thank you so much, Ben, for walking us through that. It's absolutely mesmerizing. It must be so hard not just to sit and stare at it.
I mainly am tripping over it because it's just on the floor gathering dust, trying not to, fall to bits while my kids are screaming around it and charging back and forth.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for walking through it. And we'll move over to Alec Hole now, who is going to show us his neoclassic space builds. Hey, Alec.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Very well, thanks. Yeah.
So you've got some neoclassic space to show us.
Yeah. I'll just move the camera down to the space level.
Oh, nice.
I'm just adjusting so I can see. There we go. Right, I'll try and put the camera in a position which can take in the whole scene, which is, it's actually a bit further back than I was expecting. If
oh, wow.
How's that?
That's great.
Sorry, I'm in a rather small room and it's quite a large spacecraft, so
it really is. We can do some more sort of close-up shots and stuff in a little while, so this is a good place to start from.
But yeah, basically, for the first sort of big Lego spaceship was the Galaxy Explorer, which came out in 1979. So that's the Galaxy Explorer there. And I was a bit too young to get this set when it came out, but I always liked it. And to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the set, I thought, what shall I do? So I thought I'll make a really big Galaxy Explorer, which is this here. So it's if I just push it forward a bit, the original Galaxy Explorer has got a sort of an opening back. It sort of splits open like that, and you can put a rover or cargo in the back. So I thought I would try and mirror that with this version, and so the back splits open like that.
Brilliant.
I'll just move the camera down so you can see that a bit better, and you can see that the rear door opens up like that,
Oh, fantastic.
and you've got a rover which can fit inside. So that's like a sort of a custom kind of tanker rover. Sorry about.
That's really cool.
There you go. And if I just, you can see with the spacecraft, it's, I like to add sort of play features to the ships, a bit like the original Lego space sets. They always had lots of play features on board. So things that open up, control rooms for the astronauts, and got the pilot can sit in there, and the sort of the final trick which this big one does is that the rear section is modular, so the whole rear section can detach and slide out like that. So if I ever wanted to build a different sort of rear section for it, that would slot in the back. And you can see it's all sort of built around a Technic frame there, which just sort of makes it strong enough to hold together.
Was it tricky getting that sliding mechanism nice and smooth?
Yeah, it's basically a lot of tiles and a lot of building with bricks on their sides or upside down, so you can get smooth surfaces, and so you can get everything either functional or I like the ships to look a bit like they're a prop from a science fiction film. So rather than seeing all the studs, you have this sort of studless look, which was pioneered by Pete Reed and Tim Goddard, and I wanted to kind of follow along in that style. And we have things, we call it greebling, which is all the sort of little technical looking details on the outside of the spaceships, which I think Lego lends itself quite well to, because there's so many different little parts now that you can use in different ways. So things like, you know, robot arms, and even like the sort of flexible hose pieces, which I've used on the engines there, and sort of little clips and stuff like that. So it kind of gives it that slightly industrial quality. So some of the kind of the science fiction films of the 70s and the 80s had that sort of look. Some of the Star Wars spaceships and some of the ships in films like Alien and so on, they have that very kind of industrial look to them, which I quite like. So yeah, that's the kind of look I was trying to go for. And the same with the sort of the hangar section in the background. So you can see there's quite a lot of detailing there on the hangar wall in the background.
Yeah, it's going all the way up, all of the little detailing and greebling and everything.
So I'll just I'll close up the big spaceship. I'm just going to try and move it out of the way and show you one of my big rovers.
Yeah, fantastic.
So I'll just
feel free to put the phone down for a minute if you need two hands for that.
No.
As much as people would love to get bingo, they don't want to see you drop that.
No, it is swooshable, but it's quite heavy. So lift it with care.
This angle is really good of the base. We feel like a minifigure right now.
Right, hello, sorry, I am still here. Give me a second. Just going to roll the rover into position. And so that's, you can see the color scheme of this one is a bit different. So the original classic spaceships were gray and blue, but in the mid 80s, they also had some sort of grey and green models. So this is inspired by one of those, and it's also inspired by a mock made by a Polish builder called Piotr Czerecki, and I really liked it, and I thought I'd do a sort of a tribute to it. So his had the sort of the twin canopies at the front, and yeah, I just thought it'd be great to do a really big rover with it's got this claw at the back, which you can open up like that, and that can I'm sorry about the jerkiness of the camera. It's there you go, you can see there the claw, which can sort of pick things up off the ground. I think that there we go, you can just about see that there.
Yeah, no, that's nice and clear there. That's great.
I think it's just because I'm in a rather small room, and that doesn't actually I can't get far enough away from the models. I'm just
It's
going
always
to
a challenge of building enormous Lego models.
Yes, that's it. But if I just hold the camera steady now, you can see that's got a 9-volt lighting system in it. So all the lights are lighting up. So we've got like a little kind of reactor thing going on there, and we've got flashing lights running through it. So there's room for a battery box in the back, but it can also be plugged into one of the old 9-volt train regulators, so you can get the get it running all day at a show without having to worry about changing the batteries.
There's so much cool greebling on this one as well.
Yeah, sort of. I like the kind of sort of biomechanical, slightly organic style. So I like using a lot of curves and things. Oh, that bit's just come off. Never mind. Put that back. Yeah, the problem is often you get bits falling off, which isn't the most helpful thing at shows. But as long as the sort of the internal structure is fairly robust, then you can repair the sort of the greebles without too much trouble.
Jennifer asks, did you find it hard to get any particular pieces?
Not too bad, no. I mean, I go on Bricklink and I just sort of buy up a lot of little grey bits, and I just sort of try things out and see what works. But yeah, it's just a process of trial and error. I don't really go for the whole digital design thing. I just like to sort of try things out in the brick and yeah, see how it all goes. Let me just see if I can put that down. Give you a
Just there would be great. That's a nice angle.
It's that, yeah, just I can get most of it in. Oh, sorry. The wire on the camera is trying to make the camera fall over, so this is not if I can. There we go. I think we've finally. Right, I think that's about the best I can do.
That's cool. That's great. Tan asks, did you have to use the turmeric dyeing technique on the clear trans pieces to get the yellowing, or were you able to get all the pieces you needed on Bricklink?
No, I don't do the dyeing thing. I have a friend, Reese, who he tried the turmeric thing and he had a little accident and managed to have a small explosion in his kitchen and dyed the walls yellow. He told me he was able to clear it up before his family returned home, but that sounds a bit too hectic for me. So yeah, I just buy bricks that Lego have made in trans yellow, and luckily with things like the Lego Batman movie range, they did do quite a few trans yellow parts which were new, so that was useful. And in the green, these parts were new. I've forgotten which set they came in, but that was useful. That's an old part, and the front canopy is an old part.
And Jennifer asks, did you use any new techniques in these builds or any interesting techniques that you want to tell us about?
I think, let's see, I mean, the sort of the greebling is just lots of patterns and working out, you know, what looks nice. I have a few kind of parts I use quite a lot, like the little telephone pieces are quite useful. They come in blue and a few other colors, and they look like pipes sometimes, so I like to use them. Anything kind of curvy and organic. I'm working on a new version of the Galaxy Explorer, a slightly smaller one, but if you can see the underside there, it's got quite a lot of detailing on there. And I'm using things like, there's the smokestack piece, which is often used in like lorries in the city, Lego City models, but that makes a nice pipe and it plugs into a sort of Technic pinhole. So that's quite useful. And any of the sort of bar pieces which have curves and things like that are really nice. So yeah, it's just sort of a case of playing around with all of that and seeing what works. I've got a friend of mine called the Brick Artisan, did a nice calendar of neoclassic space models. And I was feeling a bit rubbish in January with all the pandemic, but I was looking at the calendar and I thought, oh, that's some really nice spacecraft in there. So that inspired me to do yet another Galaxy Explorer. But I like the community. It's nice that we all inspire each other, like all the space builders who build neoclassic space. It's like we kind of riff on each other's work, and it's quite nice. And when we do a show and bring everything together, it all kind of, it looks like it's from the same universe.
Definitely. How many different versions of the Galaxy Explorer have you built now?
So, well, I've got the big one you've seen, then this one here is the one in progress. You can see that the fuselage isn't quite finished there. And that's the one inspired by the Brick Artisans version. And then I'll show you the first one I did. So that was one of my first neoclassic space builds. And that was, which is this one. So you can see it's using the canopy from Benny's spaceship from the first Lego movie there.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to try and get the camera far enough back so you can see the whole thing. I'm literally hitting a chest of drawers. So
we can see most of it. We can see most of it at that.
And a bit like the big one, there is room in the back for cargo and for a rover. So this one just has a, if I go down here and open up the rear door, this one just pops down like that. So you see there's room in the back. And I did this this sort of space moon bike thing. I just watched the Akira movie with all the sort of futuristic motorcycles in it. So that was the result. So that can fit in the back of that Galaxy Explorer. So yeah, for each sort of size of ship, I try and have a kind of a design for the size of vehicle that will fit in the back of it. So hopefully the vehicle that fits in that one will also fit inside the other smaller Galaxy Explorer that I'm still building.
And which lugs are you a part of, Alec?
So I'm in Brickish and I'm also in London Atholls.
Well, thank you so much for showing us your different neoclassic space builds. They're really impressive, and I think a lot of people can identify with the problem of not having space in the room for the things that you're building.
Thank you. Yes, I think my ambition sometimes is a little bit too big for London living. Houses are not always the largest.
You're in good company with that for sure. But thank you so much. Cheers, Alec.
Thank you, Graham.
And now we're going to talk to Tan Yi Liang about his build. So Tan, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. Basically, is what we have here is, let me see if I can get it right. This is basically what I call the KS22 Keisha. It's basically the main flagship mech of the good guys in my faction, of the good guys in my universe. Sorry, the 22 NF2 regiment. They're mainly meant to fight. They're basically a mercenary unit that's meant to fight aliens trying to infiltrate Earth on behalf. They take contracts on behalf of the CIA, MI6, NATO, the UN, and they plow that money into researching cures for improving a real-world genetic condition called neurofibromatosis type 2, or NF2 for short.
I love the color scheme.
Thanks. It's actually the color scheme of the real-world NF2 community. They use it for awareness raising about the disorder. They use it for solidarity purposes within the community itself. And all my models are actually inspired by and named after people who have either living with the disorder or who have died from it. In this case, this particular model is named after my partner who passed away fighting NF2 in 2014. So what I do is I take an aspect of their character, what makes them them, and I try to transform it into the mock. In this case, I took her, her name was Keisha Petros. I took her spirit of resilience, never say die, never give up. Because basically NF2 causes tumors to grow in the brain, spinal cord, other nerves of someone with the disorder. And in spite of all that she lost the ability to walk, she lost the ability to smile, she lost the ability to hear, she never stopped fighting. So I put her in my mock by, as you can see, you've got basically weapons everywhere. It's dripping in weapons on the wings, on all the arms, wherever I could slam something in. That you can tear something off it, you can tear the arms off, it will still find a way to hurt you. You can tear off the wings, it will still find a way to fight, and it will just keep on ticking. You can take a beating and keep on ticking.
That's such an incredible tribute.
And yeah, it applies to all my friends because I'm now doing a whole series of mocks based on the inspired by the office bearers of actually a real world charity in the US, UK, and around the world. It's called NF2 Biosolutions. So every one of them I'm taking each family and doing a tribute based on the individual aspects of their family.
And how many units do you have in this series then now?
I've basically done one of all the, yes, Asian women with NF2 have inspired me.
Yeah.
Aside from my late partner, my friends who also have it. There are a few more. I've basically done everyone in the Philippines and Singapore.
Yeah.
And some Americans, a Brit, 6 or 7. Most of them are in crates behind me, but so I have this on display because itchy fingers, I just can't stop building with it, fiddling around until I get something right. From a technical standpoint, I'm often inspired by the Tau of Warhammer 40K and also the mechs of Battletech.
Do you know how many pieces you used in this one?
Holy goodness gracious, I have no idea. It's probably 150, 200. Yeah. And most 200 tops. Because I try to make them small. I try to keep them small in the feel that these are power armors. These are meant to be something you can plug into because almost all my friends with NF2, they use some form of mobility aids to get around. They either use wheelchairs, powered wheelchairs, rollators, walking sticks, you name it. Or to hear, they need hearing aids, brainstem implants, whatever. So I imagine the world where you can just plug themselves into one of these and lead a whole army. Basically use their already inspiring resilience to inspire the men under their command.
And what kind of treatments are available for NF2? Is progress being made to
another version I have with the 40mm grenade launchers.
That's cool.
So you're talking about treatments? Yes.
Yeah. Are they making progress in terms of finding ways to treat it and help people?
Yeah, slowly. That's why I'm supporting NF2 Biosolutions because they're working on gene therapies to fight it. The research is about 10 years away and they need funding. We need funding for it. But so far it's still brain surgery, spinal neurosurgery, chemotherapy, and radiation therapy. So these are both variants of the KS22. And
was it tricky to get those angles? Because there's some really cool angles going on there in that one.
Yes, actually it wasn't, because I actually used a Ninjago technique. There's actually the Lloyd's green Mac that came with the Darling Kindersley book. They used 2 A-frames, like a T-shirt. Yeah. And that was just the breakthrough I needed. So I used the central piece for the cockpits, and everything else just builds on. And there's a neat trick I learned. You can see that here I learned from an Italian mock builder, Alessio Concadoro. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing his name right, but he used minifig legs as thrusters, as vector thrusters.
Oh, brilliant!
I picked it up from him, and I have to use it. I have to really use it. Another thing I liked is from a Malaysian builder called Khairul Apai Nizam. A fellow builder of mine here in Malaysia. I exhibit with him because that's where I live. He used in R2. He basically made a mock around an R2. So I basically used the same thing. I used the idea of an R2 piece, but this is inspired by the CAD's targeting acquisition displays, targeting acquisition devices used in the Apache longbow, because that's how I see my mechs. I see them as basically helicopters, the equivalent to helicopter gunships. The backstory for this is that every mech is a one-of-a-kind piece. The whatever is captured from the aliens, the 22 NF2 regiment can reverse engineer in its labs. Some of it goes to help people with the disorder. Some of it goes to improve the designs. So it's basically a mishmash of alien and human tech.
How long does each one take you to build?
It depends. I can basic design, rough design until it's complete. If I'm pushed, 3 days. Then after that, it's just adding on, R&D.
Jennifer asks what your next build is going to be.
I have a few options in my mind. I'll push down so you can see more, see it better. I actually have a few options in my mind. Let's say that maybe, gosh, there's one more based on I still have to do one completely as a tribute to a Singaporean friend. The one I have now is a derivative of the KF22, but I'm thinking of doing one more. As a tribute to a Singaporean friend of mine, which I'll probably put up in a Singaporean show when things will travel to open again. If not, I will probably do one based on someone in the UK. I've got a few friends in the UK that are still lacking a mock mix inspired by them.
Which look are you a part of?
I'm actually a part of Good Luck, would you believe? I studied law in Bristol, so I have a connection to the city, and I plan to come back whenever I can.
Brilliant. Well, hopefully it won't be too long until we can have a show again.
Oops. And I've just lost the Gatling gun. Yeah, because these are what these are. These are basically Gatling guns, a minigun. Gatling guns with a missile pod underneath. I have 22 of these on the mock.
Do you do any digital designing, or do you go straight in with the bricks?
Nope, no digital. I can't. I just have to have the feel of the Lego in my hands. And 22 itself is significant because 22 is the chromosome that mutates to cause NF2.
Oh wow! So it all ties back to.
Yep, and if I have this, if there's a 30 of anything on my mock, like on this one, I'll show you right here. I have these. I use these cups as drone to represent drone bombs. Basically, they have small little drones. You can send them off. They have to send them off to blow something up. They have the capacity and the power, the explosive power of a 155 millimeter artillery shell. So yeah, you can see them right here. I'm not sure if they're showing up properly.
Yeah, we can see. Yeah.
So I use these coffee cups to represent that, and there's 30 on them, which represents 30,000. Just how 1 in every 30,000 people is born with NF2.
Wow.
So it's all these little tributes on my Macs. Like for this one, let me see if I can find. There's a skull and crossbones.
Yes.
Here. That also is a tribute. It shows that this mech is piloted by the commander of the Spirit Company, which is my sig fig. The Spirit, the 22 NF2 Regiment Spirit Company is made up of anyone who has lost someone to the disorder, which naturally I have, so it's my sig fig goes into it.
Yeah.
Any
and all
question?
these the symbols and things relate to different things that, like the next one.
Yeah, I use a lot of next one symbols. Like for example, this one here, I'm not sure you can see it. The sword represents that it's part of the mythos that this represents a noble house, one of the 39, so to speak, 39 noble houses that command regiments, a unit in the regiment. And also this one on the side, like it's basically that this pilot is an ace. He's brought down more than 5 UFOs. And a lot of this is, it's all over the place. There's at least 4 or 5 that are hidden. There are 1 or 2 that are hidden somewhere.
Yeah.
Like this one here. Let me see if you can get it right. This sea creature, whatever you want to call it, just shows that the pilot has participated in operations in the South China Sea. South China Sea, Yellow Sea, basically Sea of Japan. So it's all tied to something.
Do you have Tan, do you have a favorite Lego element?
I'd have to say the A piece, the A-frame, because it is that A-frame that forms the basis of my entire collection.
Yeah. It's such a good central, it's such a good piece for kind of building out from, for sure.
Thanks, Max. It is. It was that Darling Kindersley book was a breakthrough. It was like I had been trying to find the right torsos for my Max for ages, and the moment I had it was like, this is it. Of course, then came the colors. The colors came naturally, but that's because my best friend actually suggested I should move away from black and red and find new colors. I thought, I have white, I have black, I have white, I have red, I have blue. These are, as you can see on my T-shirt, these are our colors. So yeah, go ahead. I was excited to go for it.
Damien says these are great builds and such a lovely way to build a tribute to a loved one.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And Kaz says lovely tributes to your friends and loved ones.
Yeah, I try. I just try to really get as many of them before they pass on, because at this point it's still a game of chasing life to the most, to the fullest, in spite of a tumor in the spine, a tumor in the brain, 1 more surgery, 1 more hour radiation. So that's why I mainly try to raise awareness to a community, like for example, to a wider community. The only way I can do it is only way I can really enjoy doing it is through Lego.
Well, thank you so much for showing us these, and thank you so much for talking about how they attribute to people you care about. And if you could share a link to the charity in the chat, then it will make it really easy for everyone to go and have.
Definitely. Oh, and yes, and also these skulls here are basically nose art. They have a hidden meaning in the NF2 community, which I have explained to fellow NF2ers, but they for as far as they're nose art. It's like a little thing the pilot himself tacks on. Well, definitely leave a link. Thank you so much for having me.
Tan, thank you so much. That was fantastic. And yeah, please do share that link in the chat. That was really inspiring. And thank you also to Kaz, Ben and Alec, who have also presented in this session. It's been really great to see some really wonderful space builds. If everyone could watch out, because there's going to be a best mock prize, 1 for Saturday and 1 for Sunday. So there'll be a link in the email that you get after the event. So keep an eye out for that. And please do follow the instructions in the email and check out the link that Tan is putting in the chat as well, so that you can find out more about the work that charity does. We've got a break now for lunch. So grab something to eat, stay and chat. Everyone will be free to unmute themselves and have a bit of a social for a while. And then at 1:30, we have a presentation from Digital to Bricks with Miguel Raizino. I do apologize if I pronounced your name really badly there. Thanks a lot, everyone.